Before you sign a single document, before you hand over your personal military records, before you commit to paying thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars to a company promising to maximize your VA disability claim, you need to stop. You need to take a deep breath, and you need to watch every single minute of this video. Because the landscape of VA claims assistance has fundamentally changed, and what was once a gray area has now become a minefield, filled with unaccredited, unregulated entities that are targeting veterans with surgical precision. They are using sophisticated marketing, slick promises, and emotional appeals to get you to sign on the dotted line, often locking you into contracts that are difficult, if not impossible, to escape. We are going to break down the 7 critical warnings you must understand before you hire anyone to help with your VA claim, because getting this wrong can cost you your financial security, your medical privacy, and potentially even put your future benefits at risk. This isn't about fear. This is about equipping you with the undeniable truth, the regulations, and the facts you need to protect yourself and ensure your service gets the compensation it deserves, done the right way. The very first, most critical distinction you must grasp is the difference between accredited and unaccredited assistance. This is the bedrock of the entire issue, the foundational knowledge that too many veterans overlook until it is far too late. When we talk about accredited assistance, we are talking about 3 specific categories of professionals: Veterans Service Officers, or VSOs, accredited agents, and accredited attorneys. These individuals and organizations are recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs. They have undergone specific training, they have passed an examination, and critically, they are bound by a strict code of conduct and federal law regarding how they can assist you, and, most importantly, what they can charge you. This accreditation is not a suggestion. It is a requirement under Title 38 of the United States Code. If someone is helping you prepare, present, or prosecute your claim for benefits before the VA, and they are charging you a fee for that service, they must be accredited. This is the law. Yet the current environment is flooded with entities, often called consultants, coaches, or claim experts, who operate entirely outside this legal framework. They claim they are merely providing education, documentation review, or strategic planning, carefully wording their services to try and skirt the accreditation requirement. They argue they aren't representing you. They're just helping you prepare the materials. This semantic dance is the first major red flag. If the service they provide directly results in the preparation or submission of forms, evidence, or arguments intended for the VA, and they are charging you for it, they are likely operating in a legal gray zone or, frankly, an outright illegal zone. Accredited professionals are subject to oversight. If they mess up or if they act unethically, they can lose their accreditation, facing real consequences. Unaccredited companies? They can simply change their name, shut down one LLC, and open another, leaving a trail of potentially damaged claims and frustrated veterans in their wake. They are accountable to no one but their shareholders, and their primary goal is maximizing profit, not ensuring your long-term success with the VA. We are talking about a fundamental difference in accountability and legal standing. You need to ask every single person or company you consider hiring, are you or the individual handling my claim currently accredited by the VA? If the answer is anything less than a resounding, verifiable yes, you need to walk away immediately. This single question filters out the majority of problematic actors in this space. Moving directly from accreditation, the second massive warning sign, and perhaps the most immediate danger to your wallet, is the fee structure. Legal accredited representation, attorneys and agents, are governed by federal statutes that strictly limit what they can charge for VA claims assistance. Typically, accredited representatives can only charge a fee after a successful outcome, meaning you receive an award of retroactive benefits, often referred to as back pay. Their fee is then capped, usually between 20% and 33.3% of all that back pay. This structure is designed to protect the veteran. The key here is that they charge a percentage of the back pay only, and they usually cannot charge for initial claims or claims where there is no increase in benefits. But the unaccredited consultants and coaching companies have developed far more insidious and financially ruinous fee models. They often charge a flat fee, or, even worse, they charge a fee based on a multiple of your monthly benefit increase. For example, they might demand a fee equal to 5 or 6 times the amount of your first month's increase in benefits. Let's run the numbers on how devastating this can be. If you successfully go from 50% to 70%, your monthly increase might be around $400. 6 times that amount is $2,400. That seems manageable, right? But what if you go from 70% to 100%? That monthly difference is substantial, 6 times that. Difference could easily put the fee well over $10,000 and sometimes approaching $20,000, depending on your dependents. And here is the kicker. They demand this payment regardless of whether there was any back pay involved. In many cases, they demand payment immediately upon the VA decision, using high-pressure tactics and aggressive invoicing, sometimes even before the veteran has received the first payment from the VA. This is a crucial distinction. Accredited professionals wait for the back pay. Unaccredited entities often demand thousands of dollars immediately, based on the future projection of your monthly payments. Furthermore, these unaccredited companies often require payment for services rendered, even if the claim is denied. They argue they fulfilled their obligation by preparing the documents, even if the outcome was negative. An accredited attorney operating on a ETI's contingency basis only gets paid if you win. The risk is shared. With these consultants, the risk is entirely on the veteran, and the potential financial burden is astronomical, often far exceeding what an accredited attorney would charge for the same result, especially if there wasn't a large amount of back pay involved. You must scrutinize the contract. If the contract calculates the fee based on a multiple of your monthly increase, or if it requires a large upfront payment for documentation review or strategy sessions, you are likely dealing with an unaccredited entity prioritizing profit over ethical practice. This fee structure is designed to extract the maximum possible amount from your benefit increase, often without the necessary legal or ethical safeguards. It's a financial trap disguised as specialized expertise. The third critical warning sign revolves around the medical evidence itself, specifically the acquisition of nexus letters and medical opinions. This is where the legal and ethical lines become dangerously blurred, creating immense risk for the veteran. Many unaccredited companies heavily promote their ability to connect you with doctors who will write nexus letters, the crucial piece of evidence linking your current disability to your military service. They often advertise this as a streamlined, guaranteed process. However, legitimate medical opinions require a thorough review of your medical history, military service records, and often a direct examination. When these consulting companies facilitate the nexus letter, several highly problematic issues arise. First, they often use a small, select group of contracted physicians who are known to write favorable opinions. This creates a system where the objectivity of the medical opinion is compromised. The VA is increasingly scrutinizing nexus letters that appear boilerplate or come from doctors who seem to exclusively work with these claim consulting firms. If the VA determines the medical evidence was generated through an unobjective or fraudulent process, it can severely damage your claim, leading to denial, or worse, triggering a fraud investigation. Second, these companies often charge exorbitant fees for these pre-packaged nexus letters, sometimes thousands of dollars, separate from their claim consulting fee. The veteran pays up front for the letter, again, regardless of whether the VA accepts it or if the claim is successful. Third, and most concerning, is the potential for these firms to influence the medical findings. While they may not explicitly tell the doctor what to write, their business model depends on successful claims. creating inherent pressure to produce favorable opinions, potentially leading to medical statements that are not truly reflective of an objective medical assessment. This is sometimes referred to as buying a nexus letter, and while the veteran may not realize they are participating in a potentially fraudulent scheme, the VA sees the result: a non-objective, biased medical opinion. If you are paying a consulting company thousands of dollars and they automatically pair you with a doctor who guarantees a favorable opinion without exhaustive review, you are taking a massive gamble. Accredited attorneys, conversely, may help you find medical experts, but their role is generally to connect you with objective specialists and ensure the medical question being asked is legally sound, not to guarantee the outcome of the medical opinion itself. The nexus letter trap is sophisticated because it uses the critical need for medical evidence against the veteran, turning a necessary piece of documentation into a high-cost, high-risk commodity. The fourth major red flag, one that should make you run, not walk, away, is the promise of guaranteed results or specific rating percentages. No legitimate accredited professional can ever, under any circumstances, guarantee the outcome of a VA disability claim. The VA decision process is complex, relying on legal statutes, medical evidence, regulatory interpretation, and the discretion of the rating official. Any company that uses language like guaranteed 100%, we ensure your approval, or we have a 99% success rate, is engaging in misleading, unethical, and potentially fraudulent marketing practices. They are leveraging the veteran's desperation and hope to secure a contract. Think about the logic. If they could truly guarantee a specific rating, they would essentially control the VA's decision-making process, which is impossible. What these companies are actually doing is calculating the statistical likelihood of success based on your existing medical records and then presenting that probability as a guarantee. They often cherry-pick their success stories and ignore the claims that were denied or damaged. Furthermore, the VA specifically warns against companies that make these guarantees. When a veteran submits a claim that seems too perfect or that uses overly aggressive language mirroring the company's marketing, it can trigger increased scrutiny from the VA. The promise of a guaranteed rating is not a sign of competence. It is a sign of aggressive sales tactics designed to bypass your rational judgment. A reputable attorney or VSO will tell you the truth. Based on the evidence we have, we believe you have a strong claim for X percentage, but the final decision rests with the VA. They manage expectations. They do not manufacture false certainty. When you see testimonials or advertisements that explicitly state a guaranteed outcome, understand that this is a marketing ploy designed to separate you from your money, often regardless of the actual outcome of your claim. This guarantee often comes with fine print that absolves the company of responsibility if the VA denies the claim, leaving the veteran with a large bill and zero benefits. The fifth critical warning, and one that carries significant long-term risk, involves the security and privacy of your most sensitive personal information. To help you with your claim, these consulting companies demand access to a treasure trove of highly confidential data. Your military service records, DD 214, detailed medical histories, mental health records, and sometimes they even request access to your C file, claims file. They need this information to build their case, but by handing it over to an unaccredited, unregulated, for-profit entity, you are exposing yourself to significant data security and privacy risks that are simply not present when dealing with accredited organizations. Accredited VSOs and law firms are legally bound by strict federal and state privacy regulations, including HIPAA in many cases, and they have established security protocols mandated by professional standards. If a law firm suffers a data breach, they face massive legal and ethical repercussions. Unaccredited consulting companies, however, operate in a regulatory vacuum. Their data security standards may be minimal, Their staff may not be properly trained in handling sensitive medical data, and their primary goal is quick processing, not long-term data. Security. You are essentially giving a commercial entity whose legal status is ambiguous the most intimate details of your military service and health history. What happens to that data when they are done with your claim? Does the contract explicitly state how they will store, secure, and eventually destroy that information? In many cases, the contract is silent or the language is vague. This risk is compounded by the fact that many of these consulting firms are high-volume operations, meaning they are aggregating the sensitive data of thousands of veterans, making them a prime target for cyber attacks. If your personal, identifying, and medical information falls into the wrong hands, the consequences, identity theft, medical insurance fraud, or even blackmail, can be catastrophic and long-lasting. Before you upload your entire medical history to an unaccredited consultant's portal, you must ask, how are you protecting my data? Are you HIPAA compliant? Where is this data stored? And what is your liability if a breach occurs? The silence or evasiveness in response to these questions should be deafening. The peace of mind and security offered by accredited entities who are legally mandated to protect your privacy is an invaluable benefit that often justifies choosing them over the riskier, unaccredited alternative. The sixth major concern, and perhaps the most terrifying, is the long-term risk of adverse action by the VA, including benefit reduction, or, in the worst-case scenario, accusations of fraud and potential clawbacks. When an unaccredited company uses aggressive or ethically questionable tactics to maximize your rating, they are increasing the risk that the VA will later scrutinize your claim. These companies operate on a volume model. They push the limits of evidence and sometimes encourage veterans to exaggerate symptoms or obtain medically questionable opinions. They focus on the immediate win, but they do not bear the long-term consequences. The VA has the authority to review claims at any time, especially if the claim appears suspicious, involves rapid, significant increases in rating, or relies heavily on medical evidence from known claim mills. If the VA determines that the evidence submitted was manipulated, fraudulent, or the result of an unethical scheme, they can propose to reduce your rating or even retroactively claw back benefits already paid. This means you could be forced to repay tens of thousands of dollars to the government. The unaccredited consultant who prepared the claim will be long gone, having already collected their percentage fee. You, the veteran, are left holding the bag, facing financial ruin and the stress of a protracted legal battle with the VA. Accredited attorneys and VSOs, bound by ethical rules, are far more cautious about the integrity and objectivity of the evidence they submit. They prioritize a legally sound, sustainable claim over a quick, high-risk win. When a consultant encourages you to seek out specific diagnoses or suggests language to use during your compensation and pension (C&P) exam that sounds rehearsed or scripted, they are flirting with fraud. Your claim should reflect the honest, objective truth of your medical condition, backed by sound medical evidence. If the process feels transactional, if it feels like you are being coached on how to be sick rather than proving your existing sickness, you're putting your future benefits at severe risk. Remember, the VA is getting smarter about identifying these patterns, especially following recent legislative changes aimed at cracking down on predatory practices. The short-term gain from an aggressive, unaccredited approach is simply not worth the long-term threat of losing your hard-earned benefits and facing massive debt. The seventh, and perhaps most important, piece of advice is to understand the array of legitimate, free, or low-cost alternatives available to you right now. You do not need to pay thousands of dollars to high-risk, unaccredited consultants to get the benefits you deserve. The system is designed to provide assistance through accredited channels. The gold standard for free assistance remains the veteran service organizations, or VSOs. Organizations like the Disabled American Veterans, DAV, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW, the American Legion, and many others employ accredited VSOs who are trained specifically in VA regulations. They work for free. They review your BI records, help you file the claim, track the progress, and even assist with appeals, all at zero cost to you. They are accredited, accountable, and their mission is purely veteran advocacy, not profit. They are the frontline resource for every veteran. Furthermore, if your claim is complex, involves difficult legal interpretations, or has reached the appeal stage, you have the option of hiring an accredited VA attorney or agent. While they do charge a fee, as we discussed, that fee is legally capped and contingent upon a successful outcome. Back pay. Hiring an attorney provides you with legal representation, ensuring your rights are protected throughout the complex appeals process. They are held to the highest ethical and legal standards. The narrative pushed by the unaccredited companies is that VSOs are slow or ineffective, and that attorneys are only for appeals. This is a false dichotomy designed to push you toward their expensive, unregulated services. The truth is, VSOs handle the vast majority of successful initial claims, and accredited attorneys provide crucial, legally sound representation when the complexity requires it. Before you even consider paying a consultant, you must exhaust these free and regulated options. Schedule an appointment with a VSO today. Talk to them about your situation. If they identify complexities that require legal intervention, they will advise you accordingly, and you can then seek an accredited attorney knowing you are protected by federal law and professional ethics. Do not let the slick marketing of unaccredited consultants convince you that they are the only path to success. They are merely the most expensive and riskiest path. Let's dive deeper into why the VSO route is consistently the safest and most efficient starting point despite the negative narratives often spread by predatory companies. The VSO model is built on decades of institutional knowledge. These representatives often specialize in specific types of claims or specific eras of service, giving them deep expertise that a general consultant simply cannot match. When a VSO prepares your claim, they are not just filling out forms, they are leveraging their relationship with the VA system, understanding the local VA regional office nuances, and ensuring the required elements for service connection and rating are meticulously documented. Because they are part of a larger organization, they have access to training and resources that keep them current on the constantly changing regulatory environment, including major legislative shifts like the PACT Act. When the PACT Act introduced new presumptive conditions, VSOs were immediately trained and equipped to handle the influx of claims, often before the unaccredited consultants could even figure out the implications. This competence, combined with the fact that they are free, makes them an unbeatable resource for initial claims and increases. If an unaccredited consultant is charging you $15,000 for documentation review, understand that an accredited VSO will provide the same, if not superior, level of review and submission for $0. The consultant's primary selling point is often speed, but speed without integrity is dangerous. A VSO prioritizes accuracy and sustainability, ensuring that when you receive your rating, it is built on a solid foundation that can withstand future scrutiny. Now, let's circle back to the legal framework, because understanding the recent legislative changes is paramount to protecting yourself. The PACT Act, while primarily known for expanding toxic exposure benefits, also contained provisions specifically aimed at cracking down on unaccredited claim sharks. These provisions sought to reinforce the existing law, 38 U.S.C. Prorb 5904, which governs who can charge fees for claims assistance. While the VA and Congress continue to work on the specifics of enforcement, the intent is clear. The government is actively moving to shut down the unregulated industry. By hiring an unaccredited consultant now, You're essentially engaging a business model that the VA is actively trying to dismantle. This introduces a new layer of risk. If the VA decides to aggressively enforce the accreditation rules, any claim filed with the assistance of an unaccredited consultant could be subject to intense review, delay, or even rejection on the grounds that the representation was unauthorized. Furthermore, the contracts these consultants use, which often demand non-refundable fees or high multiples of monthly benefits, are inherently unenforceable under current federal law for VA claims assistance. However, enforcing your rights against these companies often requires expensive private litigation, something many veterans cannot afford. They rely on the veteran's lack of legal knowledge and reluctance to pursue them in civil court. An accredited attorney, conversely, operates entirely within the legally sanctioned framework, providing a clear, enforceable contract that aligns with federal fee caps. When you see news reports about the VA or Congress investigating these companies, take that as a massive, flashing warning sign. Do you really want your sensitive claim tied up with an entity that is currently under federal scrutiny? Let's dissect the psychological tactics employed by these unaccredited firms, as they are crucial to their success. They do not sell expertise. They sell emotional validation and urgency. Veterans often feel undervalued, frustrated by the VA bureaucracy, and deeply skeptical of the system. These consultants exploit that frustration. They use language that frames the VA as the enemy and themselves as the insider who knows the secret codes to bypass the system. They use military jargon and often hire veterans themselves to create an immediate sense of camaraderie and trust. They promise to lift the emotional burden of the claim process, which is a powerful appeal to someone struggling with service-connected conditions. But this emotional connection is a sales tool. Once the contract is signed, the service often becomes impersonal and automated. The secret codes they possess are usually just publicly available VA regulations and rating schedules, repackaged and sold at an exorbitant premium. The urgency they manufacture, "File now before the rules change," or "Our schedule is filling up fast," is designed to prevent you from taking the time to consult a VSO or an accredited attorney who would give you objective advice. When you feel a high degree of urgency or intense emotional pressure to sign a contract, step back. Real professional help can wait a week. Legitimate representatives understand the complexity and sensitivity of the claim process and will not pressure you into a quick decision. The moment you feel like you are in a high-pressure sales environment, remember that your health and financial future are at stake, and that feeling is a deliberate manipulation tactic. Consider the concept of over-filing and its detriment. Some unaccredited companies encourage veterans to file claims for every conceivable ailment, regardless of the strength of the service connection. Their logic is that filing more claims increases the overall probability of a rating increase, thereby maximizing their percentage fee. However, this strategy can backfire spectacularly. Overfiling clogs the system, slows down the processing of legitimate claims, and most importantly, dilutes the focus on your primary, most debilitating conditions. When the VA rater sees a claim packet listing 10 different conditions, some with very weak evidence, they may spend less time focusing on the core issue, like severe PTSD or a major orthopedic injury, because they are overwhelmed by the sheer volume of marginal claims. A good VSO or attorney will advise you to focus your efforts on the strongest, most impactful claims first, ensuring meticulous documentation for those core issues. They prioritize quality over quantity. The unaccredited consultant prioritizes quantity because their payment is tied to the total percentage increase, no matter how that increase is achieved. This difference in philosophy, meticulous focus versus scattergun approach, is critical to long-term claim success. A well-prepared, focused claim built on solid medical evidence is far more likely to succeed quickly and sustainably than a sprawling, weakly supported claim designed only to maximize the consultant's fee. Let's talk about the specific danger of giving these unaccredited entities power of attorney, POA. While VSOs and accredited attorneys require POA to represent you before the VA, this authorization is granted within a regulated system. It allows them to view your records, submit evidence, and communicate with the VA on your behalf. When an unaccredited consultant asks for a POA or a document that grants them similar access to your files and communication rights, the danger is amplified. First, it may be a direct violation of VA regulations for an unaccredited person to hold POA for fee-based claims preparation. Second, and more practically, granting access to your C file gives them an unprecedented view into your entire military and medical history, information they can use not only for your current claim, but potentially for marketing future services or even selling aggregated data if their privacy policies are weak. Furthermore, if you grant them POA and later decide to terminate their services, the process of revoking that POA can be complex and sometimes contentious, especially if the company is uncooperative. You may find yourself in a situation where the unaccredited consultant is still receiving copies of VA correspondence, even after you have moved on to legitimate representation. You must treat the power of attorney as sacred. It is the key to your entire history with the VA. It should only be entrusted to accredited individuals or organizations whose ethical standards and accountability are guaranteed by federal regulation. If a consultant asks you to sign a document that gives them the authority to communicate with the VA on your behalf, confirm their accreditation status immediately. If they are not accredited, that document is likely worthless in the eyes of the VA, but still grants them access to your private life. The concept of value needs intense scrutiny here. When you pay an unaccredited consultant $10,000, what exactly are you paying for? They often claim they are providing specialized knowledge, but as established, that knowledge is largely accessible through free VSO channels. They claim they are providing efficient service, but the VA process itself is the bottleneck, not the preparation phase. The primary value they provide is coordinating the nexus letter process, which, as we've discussed, is often the most legally and ethically fraught part of their service. Are you truly getting $10,000 worth of service, or are you simply paying a massive fee for coordination and risk? Compare this to the cost of an accredited attorney who, for the same $10,000, as a percentage of back pay, provides legal expertise, representation in court if necessary, ethical guidance, and protection under federal law. The value proposition of the unaccredited consultant simply does not hold up under objective analysis. They are selling convenience and the illusion of a shortcut, but that shortcut often leads to a dead end or a massive bill. The vast majority of veterans who successfully navigate the VA claims process do so through the free accredited VSO system. The success rate of the accredited system speaks for itself without requiring veterans to mortgage their future benefits. Let's consider the scenario where you have already signed a contract with one of these unaccredited companies. What do? First, stop all communication and do not provide them with any further sensitive documents. Second, immediately notify the VA in writing that you are revoking any power of attorney or authorization you may have granted to that company. You must be proactive in severing the relationship. Third, seek counsel. While an accredited VA attorney may not be able to represent you in a civil dispute against the consulting company, they can advise you on the legality of the contract under federal VA law. Because these fee agreements often violate federal statutes regarding fee caps and accreditation, there may be grounds to argue the contract is unenforceable regarding VA claims assistance. However, be prepared for an aggressive response from the consulting company, as their business model depends on successfully collecting these fees. They often threaten legal action or debt collection to intimidate veterans into paying. Do not be intimidated. Seek legitimate legal advice, and most importantly, immediately engage a VSO or accredited attorney to ensure your actual VA claim is handled correctly and ethically moving forward, separate from the conflict with the consultant. The key is to protect your claim first. The importance of personal involvement cannot be overstated, regardless of who assists you. Whether you choose a VSO, an attorney, or regrettably, an unaccredited consultant, your claim is ultimately your responsibility. You must be the keeper of your own records. You must understand the regulations that apply to your specific conditions. You must actively participate in gathering lay statements and ensuring the medical evidence accurately reflects your condition. Unaccredited consultants often promise a hands-off experience, implying they will do all the work. This is a dangerous illusion. Any successful VA claim requires the veteran's active, informed participation. You need to understand the difference between service connection and the actual rating criteria. You need to know what the C&P examiner is looking for. Relying solely on a third party, especially an unregulated one, to manage your entire claim process without oversight is a recipe for error and disappointment. Use accredited assistance as a guide and a representative, but never relinquish your own understanding and control of your claim. Your benefits are too important to delegate entirely to someone whose primary incentive is maximizing their own fee. In summary, the decision to hire help for your VA claim is one of the most significant financial decisions you will make regarding your future security. The landscape is currently fraught with risk due to unaccredited, unregulated entities attempting to monetize your service-connected disability. The 7 critical warnings we have covered, the lack of accreditation, the predatory fee structures, the questionable nexus letter sourcing, the fraudulent guarantees, the extreme privacy risks, the danger of VA clawbacks, and the availability of superior free alternatives must guide your decision-making process. Ask the tough questions. Are you accredited? What is your fee structure based on? Will you provide me with the name of the doctor before I pay? If the answers are vague, evasive, or violate the principles of ethical, regulated VA representation, you must protect yourself. Choose the path of integrity, legality, and sustainability. Choose the accredited VSO or the accredited attorney. They are bound by law to serve your best interests, not just their bottom line. Your service deserves honest, regulated assistance. Do not let these predatory companies turn your hard-earned benefits into their profit margin. Take control of your claim. Use the resources the VA provides and secure the compensation you have earned the right way. This is not just about maximizing a percentage. It's about securing a stable, protected future for you and your family. Be vigilant, be informed, and protect your claim.